president was Theodore Roosevelt. He was the 26th president of the United States, and his presidency lasted from 1901 to 1909. And here's the beginning of our introduction. Um, who was Theodore Roosevelt? He was born October 27th, 1858, and died January 6th, 1919, due to a blood clot um, during his sleep. He was the 26th President of the United States after the assassination of William McKinley. He suffered from multiple health issues growing up, like asthma, um, heart issues, and other physical injuries. He is commonly known as Teddy, and he served during the Spanish American War and led a volunteer cavalry group known as the Rough Riders. For his early political life, he was elected to the New York State Assembly in 1881, where he quickly gained a reputation as a reformer and a fighter against political corruption. And then in 1884, Roosevelt's wife and mother died on the same day, which led to him temporarily withdrawing from all politics. But then in 1889, he was elected by Benjamin Harrison, the 23rd president, to become the U.S. Civil Service Commissioner. And then after that, he became president of the New York City Police Board from 1895 to 1897. And then finally, he became the Assistant Secretary of the Navy in 1897 under McKinley, where he prepped for war before he became president. So some of his biggest accomplishments, his most well known is the Square Deal, which was just him really throughout his presidency and like his ideals and policies that he instated. Um, Another thing is the construction of Panama Canal. He started the construction while it was finished under a different president. It was started with him.
Yes.
The next thing was the conservation movement that was led by him. This was also part of the Square Deal, but this was also just a big thing within itself. And then major thing he passed was the Pure Food and Drug Act, passed on June 30th, 1906, and we can get into that in later slides. So the Square Deal, he supported the building of the Panama Canal. Oh, wait a second, what's wrong thing? So the Square Deal, it was focused on three C's. It was the control of corporations, consumer protection, and the conservation of natural resources. Uh, for the control of corporations, he aimed to regulate the big businesses, which had a monopoly on the economy at the time, and he wanted to do this to fair competition for its consumers. For consumer protection, um, he pushed for laws to protect the consumers. The Pure Food and Drug Act and the Meat Inspection Act were acts that protected the consumer, and conservation of natural resources. He wanted to um, a sustainable use of natural resources and protect them for the future, and expanded on national parks and forests. And this was helped with the introduction of the CCC, the Civilian Conservation Corps, and on the future slides we'll get more into that. Oh, and then Panama Canal. It was obviously a really big thing at the time because for shipping and exports and stuff like that, they'd have to go all the way around North America and South America. It was just taking way too long. So Roosevelt found an opportunity and took it with backing Panama's independence in 1903. This was also a part of his big stick diplomacy, which was a policy that it would be speak softly and walk with a big stick. And the canal became a key asset for military and commercial dominance during the 20th century. And then his other accomplishments was the conservation movement. which was a political, environmental, and social movement that focused on managing and protecting natural resources for future generations. And the issue emerged because of the growing awareness to preserve resources, address the negative impacts of industrialization at that time. And then he established the U.S. Forest Service to monitor the stresses that affect the forests and maintaining the health and diversity of animal and plant species within the nation. And then he also established 230 million acres of land between 1901 and 1909. He had 150 national forests created, 55 federal bird reservations, 5 national parks, and 18 national monuments. And then lastly, his other accomplishment that he did during his presidency was the Pure Food and Drug Act that he passed in 1906, which prohibited the sale of misbranded or adulterated food and drugs in interstate commerce, and that helped establish the FDA, or the Food, Drug, and Administration, that required accurate labeling, including ingredients lists, and also prohibited the addition of ingredients that conceal damage, health hazards, or filth.
So some of his primary policies was obviously the Square Deal, as we stated before. Another thing was the Roosevelt Corollary, which was in addition to the Monroe Doctrine, basically saying the U.S. could. It was its job to be involved in the Caribbean and Latin American countries. And then big stick diplomacy, as I said before, was just really, in addition to the Roosevelt Corollary, what they did to progress the military and diplomacy in the United States at the time. He aimed to ensure fairness for all Americans through corporate regulation of the Square Deal, all the C's, and he expanded the federal power, supported labor rights, and advocated for strong national defense with these two, and increased influence abroad, mainly in the Caribbean and Latin American countries. Some of the major acts that he signed was the Elkins Act in 1903. It stopped railroads from giving secret discounts to big businesses that had monopolies, and it really overall made prices fairer for the citizens, consumer, which was mainly his main idea. Hepburn Act was also with railroads, but it gave the Interstate Commerce Commission power to set maximum railroad rates and expand its authority to regulate. In addition, it expanded its authority to regulate pipeline fares and bridges, which in tow stopped monopolies as a whole. And then the most influential act to me is the Meat Inspection Act. At the time, before the act, the conditions of meat packing, it required federal inspection of meat packing because the conditions were just terrible. And this was exposed in the Jungle, which was a book. By Upton Sinclair.
And lastly, we'll go over his lasting impacts. The lasting impacts of Theodore Roosevelt included the expanding power of the presidency and the federal government. He regulated big businesses, broke up monopolies, and ensured fair competition through antitrust laws. And then he pushed for consumer protection, which led to important legislation like the FDA and Meat Inspection Act, and led to the foundation for future health and safety regulations, including the creation of the FDA. The worldwide effect of Theodore Roosevelt being president was that he pioneered the environmental conservation, which protected over 230 million acres of land, established national parks, forests, monuments, and federal bird reservations, and created the U.S. Forest Service that helped manage these natural resources. His foreign policy also strengthened the U.S. global influence, which is especially important because of his projects like the Panama Canal and the Roosevelt Corollary.
Thank you for that, sir.